Hi, this is Justine from Two Lucky Cats. I'm going to show you how to make a butterfly cuff today. I was inspired to design a butterfly cuff by my daughter Chelsea, who works in the butterfly exhibit at the Academy of Natural Sciences here in Philadelphia. The cuffs that I made for her, I bought charm and the bead spacers and the button from Susan Clark Original. They're really beautiful, but they are a little pricey. If they're out of your price range, you can make one using Tibetan silver bead spacers, charm, and button, which I'm going to be making for my next butterfly cup. So go to our website, Two Lucky Cats, and download the pattern, and come back, and we'll start making the cuff. Alright, now if you have downloaded the pattern from our website, you'll see I included two different size cuffs. I would suggest that you cut out the size that's going to fit you in paper, and then put the paper around your wrist to make sure you have the right size. You should have about 1 3/4 inch overlap to account for the fact you need to make a buttonhole and a button. If it isn't your size, then make adjustments accordingly. But you'll need to cut out two pieces. One you'll be doing all the decorating on, and then the other one goes on the back. It'll cover up most of your stitching. And it also gives your cuff more body. You should have cut out 6 pairs of petals and have the front and the back of your cuff cut out. The first thing you want to do is decorate the top petal for each of your flowers. And the way you do this is, I take a disappearing marker and I just draw 3 lines in here. Because I don't know about you, but if I don't give myself some guidance, my stitches go all over the place. So I do that on each petal, and then I just do the running stitch close together, a few stitches up, and then I do it back again, because you can see the stitching here on the other side, and that's kind of part of the decoration of the bracelet, but it also makes the petals stand up, so it's part of the design. So I knot off each one, and then I come and do all around to all the petals on the top group of petals. Now, if you don't want to make a few stitches, you can probably just make one bigger one and come back down again and do that 3 times to give some dimension to the flower. If you just if you don't want to decorate it at all, then your flowers are going to lay flat on the band. You want to do that for each group of flowers. Just do the top like I did for the first one. Alright, and once those are done, you want to put your leaves on the band. Now, I have a pattern for this, and just put it on your band, and then take your disappearing marker and trace along this way. Now, the flower that I designed here for the bracelet, I actually used a model that is a flower that you plant in a butterfly garden, and butterflies are attracted to it. And instead of having regular leaves, it just kind of has little stick leaves. So I'm just going to draw this for you so you can see it, because you probably won't be able to see it that well on the bracelet. So this is the curve here, and then they're just lines like this that are coming off the curve. So you can just draw, you know, different lines like this with your disappearing marker, and so on and so forth. And then what I did was I just went down the curve with a running stitch, and then I came back and just again with a running stitch stitched those little leaves in. And you're only doing this on the one piece. This is your backing piece. Once you have that completed, I just space out the flowers. And remember that you need enough space for your buttonhole. And I decided it would be, to give myself more space, to put the flower this way so you'd have more space here. And then you could draw your buttonhole and put your flower on. And do this just to make sure you have your flowers spaced evenly across the band, and that you have a space to put your button. And then, you know, I just put this on here to make sure I have enough space to put the butterflies and the charm. Once you've decided that you can start here with your flower, I just pin it. And the other thing I did was, again, because I need a guide to make sure that when I bead the center, the beads all stay in the right place, I just took the top of my pen and kind of drew the circle around it to make sure all my beads stayed in the center. And then I pinned it, and then I just started to bead it. And again, you just come up from the bottom, put the bead on, and go down through and just bead them close together in a circle in the middle of the flower. And you do this with each flower. Once you have all the flowers attached, then you want to put these little bead spacers on them. And it has, oops, it has a hole up the center. This is kind of a big needle here, but I guess it goes up. So you're just going to sew it by coming from underneath and then go through it and then go back down and up and around a few times and then knot it off on the back. And then do the same thing with the other one. And once you have all that, I guess I have that in the wrong direction for you, so it's like this. So once you have that completed, you have the front of the bracelet done. Alright, now if you have the front decorated, and I'm going to demonstrate with this bracelet that was an aborted attempt. So I started with this one and made some changes in it. Once you have the front decorated, you want to put the back part on. So you start right here at the end, and you match the ends, and then with the overcast stitch, and I usually start right here with a bead. Now, if you don't want to, you don't have to put beads on, but I use little violet beads here every third stitch. And the other thing is, you can bend these over. If you want, you can just pin it down. I usually just hold it with my finger. And I just do the overcast stitch, and I do this all around the edges. Now, felt does stretch, and when you make all these stitches, it can pull the front part. So when you get down here to the end, you might find that the top is shorter than the piece underneath. So all you have to do is, by the time I get about down here, if it's a little bit longer, I just cut it off. And then I go again with the overcast stitch all around the edges here to the end. And then I make sure that I knot it off a few times because I don't want my stitches to come out. Once I've done that, I'm ready to do the buttonhole. And I just draw a line again, and see here I left a space. And also when I made the design for the branch part, I drew it so you wouldn't be cutting into it. You don't want to cut into your branch design to make the stitches come out when you're making your buttonhole. So you can just draw your line and cut, and usually what I do is I just put it like this and then make a little starting cut and then cut it. Make sure you don't cut it out to the end, but cut it here close to the end and back this way. And then take your button and make sure you can get your button through the buttonhole that you made. And then I just take the overcast stitch and go around the buttonhole. Now it's time to put the button on. And the way that I usually position the button is I just take the buttonhole and fold it up like this. And then I take my knotted thread and go right through here and come out the other end, and then you'll have it in the perfect spot to make sure your button's going to fit through the buttonhole. And then I stitch the button on to the other end of the cuff. Now the only thing you have left to do here is to put the charm here on the bracelet. Now to do this, and I'm going to show you with this charm because it's bigger, you have a little hole here, and you could just sew it on with the overcast stitch, but it doesn't have any hanger swing to it. So in order to do that, you have to use what is called a jump ring. And you want to make sure when you get a jump ring that you get the kind that isn't solid, but that you can pull apart. And what you have to do is just hold it like that, and you probably can't see it on the camera, but there's a little space there. And if you have jewelry pliers, that's fine, but if you don't, you can use a pair of tweezers, especially the kind that have a little bigger tip on it. And you just grab a hold of it and pull it towards you, and then put that through the charm. And then you want to take your tweezers and press it together real tight to put it back to where it was. And then you want to take another ring and do the same thing with that. And that'll give you some space here. As you can see with the charm here, it swings a little bit. Alright, so then I put my jump ring right here on the edge, and from underneath I come up and then do the overcast stitch and go right around the edge here of the jump ring. And secure that and go on the other side and knot it off. And then I take another stitch and I put it up through the center of that jump ring. Then I put a little spacer bead, like this is a spacer bead. Here, let me show you. I really prefer the ones that are flatter, but unfortunately I just had some of these in gold. But if you can find a flatter one, it's easier. But you just take your needle up through the center, put your spacer bead on it, and then you're going to use a little seed bead. It's decoration, but it's also going to hold the everything in place. So put it through the down through both sides of the bead, and then go right back down through the spacer bead and through the center of the jump ring, and then knot it off a few times on the other side. And that will finish your butterfly cuff. Now I did want to show you, like I said, Chelsea has a small wrist, so when it's flat, some of the petals cover up the butterfly. But if you put it around like this, like it'll be on your wrist, as you can see the little spacer butterflies a lot better. And this is the way it'll look in the back. I hope you enjoyed making the butterfly cuff. When you wear it, even if it's the middle of winter, I hope it makes you think of spring, flowers, and butterflies. Come back to our site and see all the projects that we have to share with you. Till next time, this is Dustine from 2 Lucky Cats.